Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Larissa Armstrong-Kager, and I'm happy today to be presenting on a description of chiropractic students' skills and importance for evidence-based practice competencies, a 6-year serial cross-sectional survey. I was fortunate enough to be working alongside Dr. Christopher A. Malaya, Dr. Ashley N. Long, Dr. Dana Lawrence, and Dr. Catherine A. Pohlman. So as we get going, I'd like to say that we have no disclosures to report, and I'd also like to take a minute to describe why we did this study. So in the past decade, many educational programs, including chiropractic universities, have implemented evidence-based practice training into curriculum, and for good reason. There are numerous studies to support EBP use for increased patient outcomes and satisfaction rates. And in addition, it appears that the attitudes and beliefs of our patients have a strong influence over their outcomes, which may also be shaped by the attitudes and beliefs of their providers. Similar to provider effects on patients, student beliefs are likely influenced by the beliefs of their instructors. And these beliefs could then impact the future of patient management in accordance with best practice guidelines. So while these programs are in effect at educational institutions, we don't fully know how they're perceived by students and faculty over the long term. And it begs the question, how are we currently measuring the impact of our curriculum design, of our competencies, and of our initiatives intended to level up the evidence-based principles we teach? We often ask our DC students to measure patient progress with outcome forms and with data, but how are we, as educators, measuring the new programs that we initiate? What stories do the data of our own students and faculty tell us? These are the questions we had as we embarked on this study. So our objectives were quite simple: to evaluate changes in self-reported skills and importance of evidence-based practice competencies over a period of 6 years, and to compare student and faculty's self-perceived opinions of EBP importance and skills at a chiropractic university. So for our methods, I will just highlight some things here for simplicity of the presentation. But we invited all DC students, trimesters 1 through 10, and full-time faculty to participate in the survey. Our survey protocol was delivered in 2016, 2018, 2020, and 2022. And this was distributed via paper in in 2016, and 2018, 2020, and 2022 via an electronic link. Our outcomes: we created 7 evidence-based practice competencies established in a systematic manner to create a faculty training program. Now, these competencies were initially created in 2016, and then we modified them in 2020 to reflect curriculum changes. From there, we created survey questions to measure these competencies. Last, we used descriptive statistics to calculate our data analysis. Now, for our results, our student demographic was fairly representative of a typical chiropractic university. Our student response rates ranged anywhere from 45.1% up to 63.8%, and our typical responders were students in trimesters 1 through 4. Now, our faculty response rates ranged anywhere from 48.9% up to 76.2%, and the average length of time that these faculty members were at Parker was about 9.7 years. Now, when looking at this data, a big thing we wanted to highlight was the overall student self-perceived skills. So I'll real quickly orient you to this graph. If we look from bottom to top, you'll see 4 different lines in 4 various colors. And these lines each represent a different surveyed year. Now, if we move from left to right, you'll notice we have on the left-hand side, trimester 1, and on the right-hand side, trimester 10. So we're actually able to look at the fluctuations of student self-perceived skills throughout the length of the program, which is pretty cool. Our survey was measured on a scale from 0 being not skilled or not confident at all to 10 being very confident, and you'll see this represented on the left-hand side. Now, we had 4 big key takeaways from our results, being a worsening of scores from 2016 to 2018, which you'll see from the blue to the orange line, a continuous improvement from 2020 to 2022, which you'll note from the gray to the yellow line. And then if we move from left to right, we noticed a fairly consistent decline in trimester 3 and in trimester 6, and then a recurrent decline in all 4 years in trimester 8. Something else we really wanted to highlight was the student and faculty comparison. So you'll see before you 2 graphs. If we look at the graph on our left, we are comparing the overall student versus faculty self-perceived skill. So if we look at all 4 surveyed years, we notice that the faculty had a higher self-perceived skill than students, which was hypothesized. But if we look at 2016 to 2018, we notice that both the student and faculty scores declined here. Now, if we look at the other years, we see a steady improvement in scores. The overall note here was a big mirroring effect, though, between students and faculty. Now, if we look at the graph on our right-hand side, this will be the overall importance of our EBP competencies. So we see an increase in score from 2016 to 2018, which is inverse of our data from our self-perceived skill. From here, we see a general leveling out from 2020 to 2022, but again, noticing this big mirror effect between student and faculty. Now, when looking at this information, we thought it was really helpful to look at a timeline of Parker. So we're all very aware of the constant changes occurring in curriculum and programs, and these changes may have impacted our data. So in 2016, Parker began evidence-based practice faculty training led by a single researcher, and university-wide surveys were given before this training began. So the decrease in perceived scores from 2016 to 2018 may reflect the self-awareness of EBP competencies that were developed during this initial training. In 2020, COVID and the virtual education era began, and this may attribute to some of our lower response rates. However, from 2020 to 2022, we noticed that this increase in student self-perceived skills was noted. So this increase may reflect the initiation of Parker's QEP in 2020. And for those who don't know, a QEP is a quality enhancement plan, and it's a mandatory part of the accreditation process with the Southern Association of Colleges. So essentially, it's a university-wide plan for improving student learning over a 5-year period. And Parker is focused on enhancing the use of evidence through clinical care. So we also notice these trimester fluctuations. And I want to really focus on trimester 8, where we notice this decreased self-perception in skills in all 4 surveyed years. So we're alluding this a bit to the Dunning-Kruger effect and the possibility that these fluctuations in cognitive bias and ability are occurring throughout the length of the program. In trimester 8, we see the beginning of clinic and patient interaction. So as this change occurs, students may be experiencing increased bouts of self-awareness and acknowledging the difficulty of applying evidence-based practice to real-world interactions. Last but not least, we have faculty influence, and I just thought this was too good to pass up. So faculty influence, we see this mirroring effect between skills and importance between our students and faculty. And in a recent study by Saucier in 2022, they noted the trickle-down effect, where they saw that increased faculty engagement actually perceived by students led to higher student outcomes. So this suggests this continued emphasis for faculty QEP and evidence-based program initiatives for our faculty members. So all in all, this supports the need for continued critical examination of chiro training programs to really understand how evidence-based practice beliefs can enhance patient outcomes. So we did have some limitations. We had the nature of self-perceived questionnaires, of competency modifications, we had a limited response rate, and of course, caution should be taken when interpreting the data, as surveys were cross-sectional, and this was taken at one university. Here are our references. And last but not least, I'd just like to say that as we continue to level up in chiropractic education, I'd like to quote one of my favorite authors, Adam Grant, who says, "After all, the purpose of learning isn't to affirm our beliefs, it's to evolve our beliefs." Thank you.